Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and a number of interesting topics to run through today, chief among which being Crimsix talking last night about the lack of work ethic effectively within the professional scene. In previous years we've seen a lot of Money 8s being played. I don't think they're allowed to play Money 8 anymore because it's like considered gambling or something by the CDL, but typically you would just get two captains, the pros would get in a team speak, they'd choose a lobby of like 8 players, and then they would just play 4 versus 4 for a bit of money on the line, and nowadays I'm pretty sure they just do it for good practice. However, Crimsix pretty frustrated that so far their season doesn't seem like the players seem to be doing that too much. Are people just taking their paycheck and chilling out in the evenings and not actually wanting to improve? And you know, what does this mean for the competitiveness of the CDL going forwards? Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new, as always I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Let's talk firstly then about the unfortunate story of Christopher Parasite Duarte, because as Crone says yesterday, CleanX is in a scrim lobby with the Royal Ravens coach Dominate versus the Rokkr. So you can see right here, you've got Dominate and the rest of the Rokkr guys, and CleanX also in the lobby. So the rumor is the team is going to be Dylan, of course, on the team still, Shawnee on the team, then Zed is apparently going to be starting, and then also CleanX now in the team, effectively in replacement for Parasite. Now, I don't really think Parasite is the issue on this team at the end of the day. Like, I actually think he was playing relatively well, but in a team that isn't performing so well, maybe you can imagine that the comms and maybe the team chemistry and the team dynamics weren't exactly spectacular, and they clearly needed some sort of change, and so maybe they just didn't think Parasite was the option, right? So pretty unfortunate to see. Parasite comes into this team for a not particularly long time. The team obviously doesn't have the greatest of successes, and then we've got this unfortunate Alex situation where he has to go back, and yeah, honestly, just an unfortunate turn of events for him, because I really did believe maybe this is his opportunity, right? If this team did solid and they came maybe top 6, top 8 of the major or something, they could have he could have been in the running potentially to stay in this team, or maybe another squad picks him up next season for the Pro League, and maybe that's still certainly the case, but yeah, clearly this run hasn't really ended out as he would have liked to, and CleanX is now, it seems, getting that opportunity. As Crone says as well, Parasite just removed the Royal Ravens from his bio, so it just doesn't seem like it's going to be a thing anymore, and I do wonder exactly what happened here, right? Because there was a 14-day contract thing which is now in place, but you would imagine that if they're signing him on a 14-day, that would of course, you know, ended long ago, right? Like they would have had to extend his contract, effectively paying him for the entire year, right? Because I'm pretty sure that's how it works. If you want to sign someone for longer than a 14-day, they have to be technically a player for you for the entire season. So I'm not really sure exactly how they've worked this one out, and maybe Parasite's just kind of frustrated and that's why he's removed it from his bio, as opposed to actually, like, technically maybe he's still signed, but it's still kind of confusing. So technically they could bring him back at some point. It may be, if unless there's some sort of weird thing they've managed to do where Parasite's played for them for a stage and now like his contract has just been released. But as he says right here, back to California tomorrow. So went to North Carolina, of course, for quite a while now for stage 1. Clearly hasn't worked out. Back to Cali, and honestly really unfortunate, right? Because he tweets this out yesterday as well, #Wester. It looked like he was going to be joining the Wester team because of course CleanX leaving to go to the Ravens, so maybe Parasite actually slots back in on the other end and finally gets himself back into a decent team. Tweets this out, within a few minutes he deletes it. It seems like he was getting picked up to Wester alongside Zaptius, of course, with the crazy drama that happened last season. You guys, if you've been around a while, you'll remember the whole Parasite x Zaptius situation where Parasite was like DMing Zaptius' girl mid-tournaments, and there was certainly some drama as a result of that at the time that we talked about, and I thought it would be kind of strange if it came full circle and those guys were now teaming with each other once again, but not the case, because well, as Parasite says not too long after, completely mind blown. I think he was meant to be joining Wester, to my understanding, and then a few minutes later, a few hours later, he gets dropped off the team before he's even joined the squad. So, you know, a catalogue of errors really for Parasite in these last couple of weeks. And then it's Decimate who says, on my way back home with the first seed, #Wester, right? So okay, he ends up joining Wester. I think basically what happened, maybe Parasite was meant to be joining, but then Decimate's team lost in the Challengers League qualifier, we'll look at in a second, and therefore, well, he gets to join the Wester team instead of Parasite. So not really sure what's going on with Haggy right now, just an unfortunate turn of events. I don't really think Parasite was the issue on London at all, but clearly that team needed some sort of change, and I suppose Parasite was the easiest one to put on the chopping block, to be honest. So this is what Crimsix had to talk about yesterday. How did a Modern Warfare Pro 10s, so in the day it was like 5 versus 5 right last year, rather than this year, thankfully we're back to 4v4, have a daily 3 to 4 series per night, yet Cold War Pro 8s happen 3 to 4 times per week. The TS, the TeamSpeak, is dead by 11:30 PM every night. What are you guys even playing at right now? And Sasha makes an interesting point we'll look at in a second, but certainly last season seems like a lot of pros were playing a lot of the time. Nowadays, why are pros not playing so much anymore, right? And if this whole argument may be about the, as Josh is going to talk about right here in a second, taking their paychecks and chilling, if this was the case, maybe you wouldn't have imagined pros were also playing so much last year in Modern Warfare, a game which, well, by all accounts, didn't seem to be particularly enjoyable to to play or to watch. So this year, you would expect in Cold War, that's actually when the pros are going to be playing more Call of Duty, they're going to be grinding more often. Of course, a lot of them are doing content and such now, but you would imagine that Pro 8, I mean, that was a great way to get practice, typically, to keep up with the pro scene, and yeah, apparently it doesn't happen too often nowadays. And Grim's kind of looking at the work ethic, right, and saying, what are you guys even playing at? I'm sitting here trying to get good practice in and practice outside of just my team scrims. You hop on, you play a couple of team scrims every night, then you would go on and play 8s, then maybe you'd get up in the morning and you play like pubs or something. That's what Gunless' schedule used to be. Like, he used to do the scrims, then play 8s, then play like pubs till 7 a.m, sleep until like 4, then get up again and rinse and repeat, right, and then hop straight back into pubs, I believe, then play his scrim sets, then play 8s, then go back to pubs. I mean, it was just the constant grind for him back in World War II, and well, that's one of the reasons why he became one of the best players in the entire game. And if you're not doing that every single day, maybe you're losing a step against some of the players that are. So interesting that Crim's kind of saying, okay, these guys just aren't practicing the amount that they need to be. And that is certainly the thing that we always talk about with the Dallas Empire, right? But as Slasher says, well, before we look at the Dallas stuff in just a second, the practice is fake, the spawns are different from the matches. This is a big deal we've talked about for quite a while now, the idea that, okay, these servers that they're playing on for scrims and for, pro play, pro 8s and stuff like this are very different to what they actually play on for the tournament matches. The 60Hz servers that they play on by some third-party provider, for some reason they change up the spawns, so it's a little bit different. So if you take Slasher's logic, though, to its logical conclusion, then I suppose you could argue that, okay, if the practice is fake, right, the servers for scrims are exactly the same as the servers for Pro 8s, so therefore why are you even scrimming, right, if that practice is also fake? So I don't know, if you want to say that Pro 8 is not good practice because the spawns are different, then but you're still scrimming every single day, then maybe you're just scrimming every single day because that's like your job to do it, and you're not going above and beyond the extra mile. Now, I totally understand, this is a super frustrating situation. The idea that the spawns are different in pro matches than in practice is completely ridiculous, and there needs to be a way somehow to figure out how to deal with this, right? Because it seems outrageous to me the fact that they're playing on a completely different game on both sides. But at the same time, surely if scrims are still getting you better practice than not playing at all, then the Pro 8 would also still give you some degree of edge, right? And I think this may be what Crimsix is getting at here. Like, yes, it's not ideal, but at the end of the day, this is still a good way to practice and keep your shot warp and keep your competitive skills honed together and focused, and a lot of players just not taking advantage of that at the present time. And I just found a few tweets here from Crim and some of the Empire guys especially, because that's what pretty much everyone talked about last year. The fact that at the start of the title, they were not looking so hot. These early matches, they, what not so good, the Dallas Empire, they really had a tough time early on. But by the end of the season, they were certainly the team that put in the most work, they put in the most effort, grinded basically everything about the game, and well, they were the best team at the end of the title. There's no doubt about that. As Crimsix says, before the season even starts, gotta outwork everyone as they ended up doing. And well, this was the result of it, right? The championship weekend, they win the World Championship. Hard work certainly did pay off for Ramo Ray and the rest of the team right here. So Empire were doing everything they could in and out of game last year to get some sort of edge. And Crim's looking at the rest of the league right now and saying, where is the work ethic from you guys? Do you actually want to get better? And maybe Pro 8 doesn't, make an incredible amount of difference. They're still scrimming and doing that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you'd imagine that possibly this would help teams improve to some degree. And maybe they're not taking advantage of this opportunity right now. And as Rambo says right here, congrats to FaZe on the great performance winning stage 1 just recently. We will grow from this, and we certainly have a lot of work to do, and I'm sure they will certainly put in the work. If there's one team that has that crazy work ethic, it is the Dallas Empire, and I wouldn't doubt at all if they improve dramatically throughout the course of the season. And some of that comes from wanting to go the extra mile and playing all these extra Pro 8s and playing maybe even 2v2s on their own and stuff to try and get better and improve at the game. And other players, Crimsix is saying, aren't really doing that right now, and that may come back to bite some teams as the season progresses, right? You look at FaZe, clearly they've got great work ethic. I mean, the coaching staff and Crowder over there certainly gets these guys, wanting to grind, and they all want to improve and be fantastic at the game. And some of these other teams maybe aren't quite in that boat right now. Just to finish off the video real quick with a couple of things, this I thought was pretty interesting. So Methods, having got benched off the Toronto Ultra, he's gone into challengers, right, and has been teaming a bit over there. As Mohawk says, rolled out of bed 5 minutes before our match. GG's to Methods and Co at 1-3-1. So Methods' team, that was Drazah, Twerk, and Decimate. So of course, after they didn't qualify, Decimate, it seems, joined the Western team we looked at a couple of seconds ago. Drazah was frying in this. Methods is playing well. Twerk, he didn't really have the best couple of maps that I saw up against John's team. We'll look at that in just a second here, but they end up getting through the tournament. Methods and Co, they go all the way to almost qualify for the league, but yeah, Felony and Co actually get the job done in the end. So it's FeLo, Jerd, Gravity, and John. So interesting that John versus Methods, two I suppose now former pros or whatever, but many former pros of course in both of these teams. That was an elimination match. Loser didn't qualify for the Elite Series, so John actually makes it to the Elite Series. Methods does not, unfortunately, but you know, who knows whether he'll be back in the pro scene anytime soon either. So I don't know, a lot of craziness going down right now in the amateur scene, but John does make it back into the Elite Series. Played pretty well to my understanding in this tournament as well so far, and credit to the rest of the guys doing it as well. But John, after all this time out, he's now qualified for the Elite qualifier, and maybe some teams could be belling his line later this season if they need to, right? Because by stage 3, stage 4, if he is allowed to compete, which I imagine he is if he's playing through challenges, then yeah, John could be back in the Pro League sometime soon. I'm sure some pro teams would require his services. You can look at some teams with a relatively weak SMG line right now and think John could be an ideal candidate. Jerd, of course, as well, I think definitely also deserves a mention. As Method says right here, GG, well played to Tom, Gravity, and the guys. These are the teams that qualified then just in the North American region. So 4 teams already locked up their spot, of course, by coming top 4 in the Elite Series for stage 1. And now in stage 2, here we go, with the other 4 teams that have qualified back through. Built by Gamers being one of them, Sibilants team, Easter that we just looked at, that's Shotzzy, and Aerial Rise as well, getting the job done also. But enjoy to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I'll grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.